Good morning. Okay, it looks like we have 26 participants, and I'm curious to know if you all can hear me. Perfect. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Janet. I'm housing manager with Métis Housing here in Edmonton, and I've been asked to speak with you today on behalf of Métis Housing, and so that is a privilege. Thank you very much. And I'm not super familiar with Zoom, and so I will ask for your forgiveness ahead of time. And I think ultimately I'll be able to communicate the intent of the presentation, but I only say that because I'm going to attempt the PowerPoint presentation at this time. So thank you. Oh. Can you all see the presentation? Okay, good stuff. So chat is disabled at this time, but there will be an opportunity for questions and answers at the end. I hope to make the latter part of this presentation an engaging one and one where discussion can happen, because I think given our current situation and the temperature of our community, I think it warrants good discussion and an opportunity to look into our environment that we're traveling in together. And, you know, hopefully at that point, you guys will have the opportunity to have your questions answered. Okay, and so from the beginning. And so Edmonton Housing Month. Fantastic. Thank you for the opportunity. I just start off with land acknowledgements are a meaningful recognition of the historical and ongoing relationship between Indigenous people and the land. They serve as a reminder of the need for reconciliation, respect, and awareness of Indigenous communities, contributions, and challenges. By honoring the Indigenous territories where our meetings occur, we emphasize our shared responsibility for inclusivity, equity, and a more just society. Genuine land acknowledgements are vital to show respect, foster reconciliation, and raise awareness. When performative, they can be seen as a token gesture, hindering progress and trust building with Indigenous communities. The acknowledgement on the next slide is offered for reference. However, each organization is welcome and encouraged to provide an acknowledgement in their own words. We recognize we are gathered in collaboration with joint purpose on Treaty 6 territory. This territory is the home and gathering place for diverse Indigenous people, the Cree, Blackfoot, Métis, Nakota Sioux, Iroquois, Dene, Inuit, and many others. We know the importance of the treaty and our responsibility to these communities, and that only in partnership can we create the social change necessary to end homelessness. It is vital that we meaningfully engage and partner with Indigenous people and communities in this work. It is important to recognize and address the conditions brought forth by colonialism, displacement from traditional homelands, systemic racism, residential schools, and the 60s scoop, and the ongoing overrepresentation of Indigenous people in the child welfare correctional systems, and homelessness are responsibilities we all share. And just a little introduction to Métis housing. I do want to cover who we are, what we do, who we serve, how we serve, and why we do what we do. And so who we are, Métis Housing, of course, is a non-profit organization that provides affordable and safe, sustainable housing options for Métis, Indigenous, and non-Indigenous individuals and families. We collaborate with the Métis Nation of Alberta and other community partners to address housing needs for the Métis community, Indigenous and non-Indigenous people. And so a lot of our operations is here in Edmonton, but we also have head office in Calgary, and then we have people that work in more remote community areas, which would be our TROs, and they are helping move people into homes and, of course, support those individuals while they're in homes. What do we do? We primarily have two companies. I have actually 5 programs here in the Edmonton area. Primarily, though, the two companies are Métis Urban Housing and Métis Capital Housing, and we maintain and manage rental accommodations, providing housing for over 3,000 residents in 14 urban centers throughout Alberta. As a non-for-profit corporation, we are responsible for renting and maintaining, of course, those units. Here in Edmonton, we have 500 locations, so the bulk of those homes are primarily here in Edmonton in this major metropolitan area, which is fantastic because, of course, we're seeing a significant amount of homeless individuals here in Edmonton, and so we're able to triage individuals' needs and, of course, help them transition to into our home with little delay in most cases. Métis Housing has successfully provided an affordable shelter to Métis, Indigenous, and non-Indigenous Alberta since 1982, and it's recognized by our funders and partners in the Métis Nation of Alberta as an effective, efficient, and reliable provider of housing management services. I would say, that statement is grand. I mean, who do we serve? I think what we're seeing now is a remarkable increase of people applying for Métis housing, primarily most for the urban program, which is the subsidized program that allows for rents are 25% of your net income. We do have a capital program that is the Indigenous Housing Program, IHCP, and individuals, when they qualify for that program based on the criteria, rents are 30% of an individual's gross income. Those two portfolios, the urban portfolio and the Indigenous housing portfolio, the IHCP portfolio, are large, but they're small in comparison to the need. And so we will continue to look for opportunity to access more housing through grants, government grants. And why do we do what we do? I left this field blank because there are so many reasons. I'll tell you that I was introduced to the organization through my supervisor, Denise Fayant, who has a passion for Métis people and for housing Métis people. And I would say that from an organization perspective, she is the heart of the organization. And everything she does in terms of housing is done with a level of passion. I will tell you that the other reason we do what we do is we're seeing an increased number of homeless people, as everybody is. And we collaborate with our partner with Reaching Homes, which is another program here in Métis Housing. Reaching Home is more of a housing first program where individuals transition right from wherever they're living, tent or hotel or maybe couch surfing, and their needs are triaged through the Reaching Homes program, and then Reaching Homes and our home administrative team collaborate to help escalate those needs and home people as quickly as possible. And you can imagine that shelter is a basic need. And, you know, when thinking of our hierarchy of needs, it's a very, very basic need. And so along with food, shelter, safety, those are all kind of within the same realm of basic need. And when your basic needs are not being met, you know, we're encountering an increased number of people who suffered trauma from that experience. And so I see that our organization is responding to the increasing needs of people in the community and the need to house the homeless and the need to offer additional services to people that are in need. Bindu, the director of our organization, shared with me last week that we have a new home opening up that in Greaseball that will support individuals who do have emergent housing needs and who are fleeing domestic violence or I think the exact term now is intimate partner abuse. I think that is the appropriate term to use now. I heard that last year. And so we will have some units designated for those people with the more emergent housing needs. Outside of that, more and more our organization is talking about how we serve our people from a customer service approach and from a trauma-informed approach. And so, you know, we're doing a lot to build trust with our people right now, as we know that trust is the exact opposite of trauma. In fact, you know, people who have who've had an incident occur to them and they experience trauma, they're experiencing trauma short-term and long-term. And we realize that building trust is crucial at that point. And so our Reaching Homes program has a number of people that now work in the field to help discover, you know, what our customers need and how we can best serve them. Outside of trust, you know, we're looking for safety, and I would say to offer our tenants a safe place, and obviously a place where they can discuss with us what they need, and for us to live up to those needs and requests they're relaying to us. That requires a great deal of trust, because somebody's revealing all of their vulnerability and their secret to us. So our people in the field are building solid relationships, and they're discovering what our clients' needs are. The other thing, the other principle that we are implementing is, you know, peer support and mutual help. There are this is integral to the organization and service delivery approach, and it's understood as a key vehicle for building trust and establishing safety and empowerment with our people. One of the things that I realized early on, and this is a trauma-informed principle, is that our people do require choice. People who have trauma often are left without a choice. And so it's imperative that in building trust and over communicating to increase transparency, that we're also providing people with a choice, and that we can clearly explain those choices so the customer or the client can make a choice based on all of the details. I know Bindu is quite clear on making sure that we've provided the client with a choice. And so I see these trauma-informed principles being initiated into our housing process. It's becoming the way that we're delivering this service. And then, of course, with reaching homes and providing home for people who come through reaching homes, the other thing that we're focusing on is collaboration and making them a part, having them be a part of the solution. And I think individuals, what I've come to realize is that people don't want to be told where to go and here's some resources and this is what you should do. They want to be in charge of who they are and the resources that they access. And so I can give you an example. We moved a client in, and they encountered a problem maintaining their garbage. And I know when I met with this individual, I realized I wanted them to feel safe and they could trust me, and that I was there to just offer support. I wasn't there to tell them what to do, though I did provide them with what would happen if it wasn't cleaned up. And so I said, this is the problem, and how do you think this can best be solved? And I remember the client said to me, well, I will just try. And then I said, I don't think that will work. I think you have been trying, and I've seen this, and I recognize that. And I wondered if we could create a plan. What do you think you could do? And I let the resident provide me with the plan, and I wrote it for her. And by the time I left, I hadn't contributed to that plan at all. It was entirely the resident's plan. I just wrote it out for her, and I reminded her that I would be back in a short while to make sure that that challenge was tackled, and that we didn't have to revisit that opportunity. And again, recognizing that a lot of the people that we're housing through reaching homes that are coming straight from houselessness may not have those skills to determine how to manage those kind of challenges on their own. And even though I provided no solution, I just had to create a platform for that tenant to think of a creative solution to her existing problem. And then, another trauma-informed principle that I see that we're providing or we're implementing is ensuring that we understand the trauma itself, the cultural, historical, and gender or age issues that our customer is experiencing, and to acknowledge that, and then to provide enough resources for those individuals that they can pick and choose what resources will help meet their needs. And all of this maybe doesn't sound complex, but I think we're moving from a transactional type of relationship where somebody gives money for a house and we sign a lease and we leave the person in charge of that house only to visit them, to a more relationship built uh, culture, and where we're able to travel with the customer through their journey and their needs, and to help facilitate those needs, and not from a position where there is where there is well, offering the provision of services that we're not, there's no hierarchy, there's no it's coming from it's just coming from another person. It's not coming from a hierarchy or a governing body, even though we work for Métis Housing, it's a partnership at this point. And so I don't know if I've completely summarized our task, but I can tell you that even though trauma-centered principles sound maybe easy to apply, it's, you're continuously thinking about your approach with people, and you realize that it's less about them and more about how I move forward and how I present myself to the client. And it's often about asking a great deal of questions, and I call it a discovery, understanding the need, the real need, and then writing those down, and then helping the customer build some goals around those needs with some action steps, and then revisiting that customer to see how, if that's exactly what they need, or if they've decided to change directions and go in another direction, and then traveling with them. And then, of course, the ultimate goal with a trauma-informed process is not to re-traumatize. And so that's, of course, why all of those strategies are implemented. Yeah, I don't know that I can describe it any other way. And so I'm welcoming questions or comments or feedback at this time. Chat is disabled. I'm not sure if I know how to do this. Team, I'm not sure I can activate your questions. Mhm. Okay, so here we go. Well, there we go. Are this okay, so Carrie asks, you do not have to have a Métis membership to apply for Métis housing. No, the answer is no. If you need housing, then you should apply for housing. There is a housing application. You can go to the Métis housing website, or you can come down to the office. The Métis housing website has a number of applications on it under the application file. I believe there's 3. You can fill out the application, and there are a series of documents that the application does ask you for. If you have those documents and you can complete your application in full, then your application will be processed in a timely fashion. If you are missing documents, we'll respond to your application by indicating that your document is missing, or if your application is missing some documents, and we'll ask for those documents at that time. It does slow down the process if you don't have all of the documents. So if you do, perfect. If you had to give one piece of advice to someone working in housing with clients, what would it be? I would say over communicate, aim to over communicate, because you'll never be accused of under communicating. I would say ask a lot of questions so you can attune your ear to what the client needs. From a housing perspective, I would say it's important to conduct visits and to maintain that commitment to the customer. And the reason you conduct a visit, one is to check on your property, your home, and the other is to connect with the customer. The customer will most definitely always tell you what they need, and I find this over and over again. And the customer will almost always tell you their story, and that in turn will tell you how they want to be treated and talked to and addressed, and that will take the relationship further than anything, including a successful housing occurrence. The reason, of course, when you're visiting the home on a quarterly basis, you'll want to bridge the gap from the way the home looks and the way that you need it to look from a lease perspective. Sometimes that's difficult for some people who've never entered into a lease before, or for somebody who's been homeless for a very long time. They haven't had to maintain a home, and they haven't had to access those skills that maybe they once had. And some people may have not have had to have those skills because they may be from an environment where they just haven't had to. And so expectation setting, good communication, good review, good listening, discovery, finding services that help wrap around those people when they're telling you what they need, and sometimes it's as easy as figuring out how to maintain a garbage in your lawn. Like, how do I keep up? The garbage happens every 2 weeks. I have a family of 5, 2 are in diapers. How do I? And sometimes it's about, asking, do your kids know how to, do they know how to recycle? Do they know, can you get the kids involved? Like, and sometimes people are able to, and you're able to walk out, people have a plan. But you certainly can't just say what you expect and walk away and anticipate that all will be fine after that. That's certainly not appropriate. And so if I had to give one piece of advice to somebody working in housing with clients, what would it be? it would be, I guess that would be show empathy, because that would be encompassing all of those things that I just said. Does Métis Housing invest in joint ventures to increase inventory? We are always looking, Bindu is looking for opportunity all the time. She's had some goals initially to grow the organization, and she met those goals, and she surpassed those goals. Kudos to her. She's very driven, she's quite brilliant, and she's always looking for additional opportunity. And I can tell you, she recently spoke to me about the Griesbach build and about the opportunity for more emergent housing with that build. I was not able to see your presentation from the beginning, which makes me sad, as you seem passionate and compassionate. Do you know if this will be available later because you want to watch it in full? It will be available, but I will tell you, I'm a connector. I connect with people. I'm not transactional at all. I'm not the kind of individual who will, take money and hand over a lease. I'm the kind of person who wants to understand what your needs are and who wants to live up to those needs, who wants to serve our citizens and who wants to serve people at large. So the presentation will never explain that approach. I'm good at showing that approach, and I'm good at showing what the trauma principles are, but perhaps I'm not sure if I'm good at explaining it, and it speaks mostly to Métis housing and what we have to offer. So thank you. Sherry asks, how many places do you have in Calgary for housing? Okay. Calgary is a portfolio that I'm not completely experienced with, just because I am the Edmonton housing manager, but I can grab that information, Sherry, and I can share that information with you. I also know that Métis urban housing in Calgary is completely full. The urban program is just the most popular program, and let's face it, there's just not enough subsidized housing out there. And as we continue to look for opportunities to provide affordable housing, I would encourage you to continue to look for affordable housing, and then, make your asks. But right now, I know there are no urban houses available in Calgary. Rhonda, can you talk a bit about how you go about sourcing housing options? For example, how did you get the Griesbach project to come about? Well, I don't know the entire answer to that question. I know that this is something that I would think that Bindu would be well versed in, and I can defer to her, and I will gather that information and I'll get it back to you. But I do know that the government is always posting opportunities for to financially back housing projects and programs. And so if you're looking for a program, if you're looking to have funds for a program because you want to create a program yourself, you should look at the government websites. There is plenty of opportunity. But I will grab that information regarding Griesbach, and I will get back to you on that. Thank you. Is housing available for seniors? Garth, I love seniors. I worked with seniors for quite some time in the designated supported living site. I do see opportunity for our seniors in independent living in an apartment to transition to designated supported care, or wherever they choose to go as their care needs advance. There is a gap, and Alberta Healthcare Services recognizes the gap. And I've been in touch with actually Alberta Healthcare Services 4 times in the last 2 days regarding senior specific. And so we do have some housing down at Renaissance Towers that is primarily a senior home. It's a beautiful high apartment downtown with a gathering room and an outside balcony and a fire bowl. And I do have a few other small apartment complexes, fourplexes, sixplexes within the city. But again, we need so much more. I see the need. Is there a waiting list for houses? There is a giant waiting list for our Métis urban house. I will always tell you the truth. It's huge. And as I go through capital waiting list, I made my way through the entire capital waiting list of 3-bedroom, and I spoke with every individual. There's a lot of people who are already locked into leases that applied for housing, some time ago. And then we have these new emergent applications that are coming in through our Reaching Homes program. And these new emergent applications, they just can't wait. And so as we grow and develop, it'll be wonderful to service both clients who have, or customers who've been waiting for quite some time for something to come along, and of course people who are coming in the door immediately, who say, this is my emergent need and I need service. Both of those things are true. I would say I do have some capital homes available in Edmonton. They're 20% below the market rate. That is the capital program. But it's a big program. And even though it's 20% below the capital, the market rate, utilities are included. So I feel like there's a higher level of success there. And what I hear from our customer is that it's fantastic. They say it's fantastic because it's those bills they don't have to worry about. And Janet, it was those bills that were putting me over the deep end before. And so it was remarkably thought of and packed together that way, and then convenient for people who do have a history of having high bills and can't get that paid off. I think that's a fantastic option also. So yes, there is a waiting list for houses. We have somebody who would like to discuss joint ventures with us. And so Grant, I will reach out to you after, and that's wonderful. When I look at the application, what is the difference between market, affordable, and subsidized? Good question. Okay, so market rental is what's available out on the market right now. So it's quite expensive. Market rate, 20% below market rate. That's the capital program. That is the largest group of my homes. 20% below capital rate. I'll give you an idea. For a 3-bedroom, that's $1,640. $1,640 is inclusive of your rent, your water, your power, and your gas. So it doesn't include utilities and it doesn't include phone, but that is such a tight program. I love it. Some people might find it on the high end, but just because it includes everything. And then we have the Indigenous housing program. That's it's not the affordable program, but it's the subsidized program. And that's again, 30% of individuals' gross income. That's what the rent is. And that Indigenous housing program, I will tell you that it's mostly the newer homes. The funding, that's the way the funding came in, and that's how it's being used, and that's what works. They're beautiful homes, and so I'm always excited to show a home, but I'm always excited to show an Indigenous housing program home. And then we have our urban homes. Our urban homes are, again, scattered throughout the city, about 135 homes. And the urban home is, again, you have to fit a criteria to live in an urban home. And so it's based on your income, and then your cost of services, your cost of rent is also based on the income, and it's 25%. No homes available in the urban market right now, but it's always important to keep your ear to the ground, because those homes, when they do come available, I am looking to assign people in those homes fairly quickly. Who would I connect with in terms of developing a partner? Initially, you could connect with me and I could patch you through to the right person. That's absolutely. And thank you. I look forward to it. Here's my number. Is the down payment assistance going to be available this year? I don't have a question for you, answer for you, Adam. That is a good question. I will look into that question itself and also find the answer and make sure the answer is posted for you, Adam. I don't see any other questions. Um, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for the opportunity to work with you as a peer and to work with our community and to work with our people and also to work for Métis housing and with Métis people. Um, I feel good about where I am and the company, our organization's direction from a trauma principal perspective. I think it's right on task. I'm always impressed when I work for an organization and people who have a passion for the work itself, and then also who are creating systems and processes to help live up to their commitment to the customer as well as to Métis Nation. I think, when I hear Bindu say things like open communication, clear communication, quick communication, and over communicate, and relationship building and trustworthiness, those are all important aspects. And even though that seems so disconnected from housing people, again, I just want to remind you that housing is a basic need. It's when you don't have a house, you're unsafe. When you're unsafe, it's consistent with trauma. In fact, safety is the exact opposite of trauma. And then, that's a longer distance to go. I think ultimately my goal is never to re-traumatize anybody who has already experienced trauma, and to ask a lot of questions and to understand the need and then to dissect the need and how do we deliver it. And all of those things do take time, and it takes a longer time to do all of that than it does to take rent and to sign a lease. But the organization is respectful of that and they're mindful of that. And so, yeah, it's a good place to be and it's a good organization to be a part of. Thank you for your time. Okay, and I'll sign off. And everybody's questions that were in the chat, I'll get back to you. Thank you.